On this week's episode of the Ryan Canfield Show, we have our first ever mailbag. We break down Michigan State versus Ohio State. We make our picks for Week 12 of college football, and then the hot grind of the week. And it's all presented by Milner Hoffman Tools. Use code Ryan20 at checkout for 20% off at milnertools.com. We ready, Drew?
Let's go.
Let's do it. To episode number 6, is it? Of the Ryan Canfield Show. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Drew Lawler. Drew, how we doing?
Busy week. Busy school week. Busy watching sports week. But, feeling good. Getting ready for the weekend full of college football and great college basketball this weekend and next week. And we've had some this week. So, good time to be alive right now, Ryan.
You really know it's college basketball season when there's snow on the ground, eh? It just feels great coming inside from a cold day and just watching some hoops, you know what I'm saying? All right, so we're just going to jump right into our first ever mailbag. If you want to be a part of our next one, not sure when it will be, but you can submit your questions to @the Ryan Canfield Show on Instagram. And if you did submit a question, we really appreciate it. So let's just dive right in. The first question is score prediction for Michigan versus Maryland and Michigan State versus Ohio State. Drew, do you want to start first? I don't do score predictions, but maybe we can get a lineup here.
Michigan State, Ohio State?
And Michigan, Maryland.
Ohio State's going to win the first one. It's going to end up being Ohio State versus Michigan for the Big Ten East. But I will say State has a chance of covering. Ohio State's offense is going to score a touchdown in almost every possession. But what Purdue couldn't do last week is hold the ball very long on offense. They're really explosive. So we scored a decent amount of points, but Ohio State also got the ball a ton to score touchdowns every time. I think Michigan State can slow it down more than Purdue could. They like the run game more than Purdue. Purdue's more of a passing team. So the running game might chew some clock, prevent less scores for Ohio State. But I don't think that Michigan State offense is going to be very good. Oh, Ohio State's defense isn't very good. I think it should be pretty high scoring, but not too many possessions. I think Michigan State loses by 10 to 17 points.
And if you're an Ohio State fan or a Michigan State fan, I know we got a lot of those that listen, don't move. We're going to get into that. We have a whole preview on deck for you. I'm going to look up the spread real quick. 19. Oh, that's right. It's really big. I think State covers, but I think Ohio State wins. But we'll get to that later. And I think, what's the Michigan spread?
Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you, but after doing a little bit of research, Michigan is favored on the road at Maryland by...
Michigan is 9-1 against the spread.
15 points.
15. I think Michigan covers. Michigan 9-1 against the spread. Ohio State. I have it right up here. Let me just check. Ohio State's record is not perfect, and okay. Oh, here it is. Got it.
9-1.
You sure?
Against the spread?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Well, you know what? We got some technical difficulties. I don't have that actually. So now the next question is: it's been a long week, folks. Who is the GOAT? Jordan or LeBron? Drew.
Jordan. Next.
Well, here's what I have about this. Michael Jordan is the GOAT, but I think LeBron is in his own category. LeBron is the king, okay? I got over the hump. I got over the Kobe hump. At Kobe at 2. God rest his soul, but LeBron and Jordan are 1 and 2. Jordan and LeBron are number 1 and 2. There is an argument for LeBron to be number 1. But, as of right now, he's got a chance. But as of right now, I think Jordan stays 1. And if LeBron gets a couple more rings, breaks some more records, then he will be the GOAT. But as of right now, I think Jordan is the GOAT, and I think he will be forever. Next question. Who's going to win the Heisman? You know what? I saw another question about the Heisman. We'll get into that in just a second. So now, I posted 2 polls because I want to have as many questions as possible. So let's get to the second set. Opinion on Grey's Anatomy. Don't care. Give your honest opinion on Jim Harbaugh. Drew, I got a lot of things to say about Jim. So what do you have on Harbaugh first?
The fans that want to hire or fire Harbaugh or wanted to are complete idiots. First off, I don't know. I think Jim Harbaugh is a pretty nice coach. I don't think Michigan can do any better than Jim Harbaugh. I mean, they have an alumni that has been successful. He's getting consistent or 10-win seasons on a pretty consistent basis in college football. And it's not his fault he has to end the season with Ohio State every year. I honestly don't think you can do much better than Jim Harbaugh if you're Michigan.
And I totally agree. I mean, I love Harbs. I mean, back when he first got hired, I mean, you take what Hoke left, not us, what Hoke left Michigan at 5-7, and then you have a 10-win season to start your tenure, and then you have consistently high-win seasons. You know, you have a 10-win season in, was it 10? 10-win season in 16, 18, and then 9-win seasons in 15 and 19. I mean, last year, honestly, was a fluke. I mean, the COVID year, that shouldn't go against him. But if Harbaugh does get fired, if not Harbaugh, who? We need to get over the hump of, we as, Michigan fans, have to get over the hump of the Michigan man mentality. I know Mike Hart is doing really good as the running backs coach this year, but we need to get over the Michigan man mentality. I mean, I know Jawan's doing pretty good at that, but we just need to get over that. So I love Harbaugh, and just to see him having fun this year is just, it brings a lot of hope and joy to my heart, because back when he was with the Niners and Stanford, he was this energetic guy, and kind of when JT was short, whenever that happened, that broke Harbaugh. That broke him, and it makes me feel really good to see him having fun out there. So, I mean, I still love him. He's my guy. So, and if you personally want to get Harbaugh out, then just ask yourself some questions. Okay, next question. Is Aiden Hutchinson a legit Heisman candidate? Is he a candidate to win? No. Is he a candidate to possibly make it to the ceremony in New York? Yes. See, I'm seeing all this stuff. I saw one of my good buddy Ben Sunday was making an edit of, you can follow him on Instagram at Sunday Creative. Makes amazing work for PC Mustang Sports on Instagram and Twitter. But he was making this edit of Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and Kenneth Walker as who's your Heisman pick. Why is CJ Stroud even in the conversation? Drew, do you think I'm crazy here about CJ Stroud? He hasn't done, what has he done? Honestly.
I mean, if you're a quarterback...
and Bryce Young, too, is super overrated.
Yeah, I mean, Heisman odds right now, Bryce Young is number 1, and CJ Stroud is number 2 at plus 300s, Bryce Young at plus 150. So Bryce Young's kind of a long shot, by far the favorite right now. I think it's pretty stupid. They're good players, and their teams are very good, and they're the quarterback of the team, so they do deserve a little credit. But I do think it's just a little bit of a cop-out for a season with no really clear Heisman candidate, just to choose the quarterback on the best teams and just call it good. I don't know. I think CJ Stroud, honestly, CJ Stroud, I'd almost, never mind. Kenneth Walker and Matt Corral, I honestly think are more valuable players.
See, none of the quarterbacks get me excited. I mean, as of right now, it should be Kenneth Walker, not even a question. And you're shaking your head. Why?
Kenneth Walker's good, but he's not like insane.
I disagree.
One touchdown against Purdue was
I disagree.
easy.
Listen, Kenneth Walker is the reason why State beat Michigan. Michigan should be number 2 in the country right now if it wasn't for Kenneth Walker. But I don't want to talk about Michigan. This is about the Heisman. People are saying that the race hasn't even started yet. Like, maybe champ week and week 13 is where we really figure out who makes the playoff, who wins the Heisman, or the finalists at least, and where the dominoes all start to fall. I think that, okay, this is going to be crazy, but I think Kenny Pickett is a huge dark horse. He won't win it, but he should at least go to New York. He's had a great season. I think he's not better than C.J. Stroud, but I think he's having a better year. Like, if you throw all the stats out and you just look at him, look at the two, I mean, the Heisman winner, if it's going to go to a quarterback, it has to go to a quarterback that doesn't have, I mean, it would be easier if, like, a quarterback was super good and didn't have much help. Like, a guy like Cade McNamara. Like, if Cade McNamara was playing at a Heisman level and didn't have any stars in front of him, like how Bryce Young has John Mechie and Jamison Williams, or how C.J. Stroud has JSN and Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and all NFL players around them. So that's where I think Kenny Pickett slides in, or maybe even Matt Corral. So I honestly don't think that the race has even started yet. Hopefully that it goes to the correct winner and we don't have any problems. And as of right now, that winner for me is Kenneth Walker. But we still got a long ways to go. So, and also people are saying that Jordan Davis should maybe be in the conversation. I think Aiden Hutchinson is the number 1 defensive player in the conversation right now. And he should at least get an invitation to New York. Next question. Bowl game projections. I think we're gonna get to bowl game stuff after Champ Week, because that's when we really know. Because I already have them all in mind, because there's too many scenarios for me to get into right now. Kanye West versus Taylor Swift. I've been seeing this all over the place. It's not really comparable. They make 2 different types of music. And when you think about it, like, the general population of the world would probably... now that I think about it, I was going to say Taylor Swift for the general population. But honestly, I think, you know what? I'm going to go with Taylor Swift because you have... Yeah, there's too many factors. But, I mean, they're in separate leagues. So you can't really compare Kanye and Taylor Swift. Like, Kanye is top 5 all-time rap. Taylor Swift, top 5 all-time, like, actual singing. So that's not really comparable. I have not listened to Taylor Swift's new album yet. Maybe we can get a review for that next week. Next question. If Michigan and Michigan State win out, is there any way they both make a college football playoff? No. And here's why. A one-loss Big Ten champion will... Actually, if... The answer to this is yes. And if there's... a lot of stuff has to happen. But if, Oregon wins out and Alabama gets to the SEC championship game and beats Georgia, that means that Alabama would be 1, Georgia would be 3, Oregon would be 2, and then you would need the eventual Big Ten champion. So, yes, but it's a long shot. And honestly, I don't think it's going to happen. Drew, what are your thoughts on this take?
I'm talking about Kanye West.
This guy's been glued into his phone. This is about if Michigan and Michigan State both went out, is there any way they both make the college football playoff?
If Michigan and Michigan State both went out?
Yes.
There is a way. What would have to happen would... So Michigan State wins the Big Ten championship. Michigan is 11-1 with a loss to Michigan State. I honestly do think if they both went out, they would be in, because you have... I would put an 11-1 Michigan above Cincinnati, would be the other really for other team going for the spot. Then you'd have Notre Dame going for that slot.
A mediocre Notre Dame. If the committee puts Notre Dame in, I will be very angry.
Yeah, but there's not like too many teams that would really take that spot. So I think you would almost have to put them in. Because right now you have, or I guess it depends what happens in the SEC. Georgia wins out. They get Georgia. I think Alabama's out of the playoff. They'll have 2 losses and would have lost their last game. So with that being said, if you just have Georgia, and then you have...
Georgia's a lock. Can we confirm Georgia's a lock?
If they win out in the regular season, they're a lock.
Yes.
If they lose to Bama in the championship, SEC championship, they're still in.
Correct.
What I will say is, if the Big Ten East wins the Big Ten championship, whoever wins that team's a lock.
But what about this? What if Michigan State beats Penn State and Ohio State, and then they lose the Big Ten championship? This is where it happened. In 2016, Penn State beat Wisconsin for the Big Ten championship, but they still put in Ohio State to eventually get absolutely clapped by Clemson, 31-0.
Well, in that scenario, if we have... Who's winning the Michigan State-Ohio State game then? Michigan State?
Michigan State would win against Ohio State and beat Penn State.
They're in the playoff. Unless it's like an absolute blowout.
Then would it be Michigan? Michigan and Michigan State if there's a one-loss Michigan and then a...
No, it'd be Michigan. I would say Ohio State.
But Michigan State would be the Big Ten champion.
They wouldn't be, though. Because they lost to Wisconsin.
No, I'm saying that if a one-loss Big Ten champion and a one-loss Michigan... Oh, well, the Big Ten champion in this case would be Michigan State.
Are you saying Michigan State wins the Big Ten championship?
Michigan State wins the Big Ten.
They're in.
And then a one-loss Michigan wins out. They beat Ohio State. Would the committee value a victory over the number 4 team in the country then? And then
Michigan State would be in by far.
Okay.
Michigan would probably be in as well because Ohio State would be out. I'm going to assume Oregon loses one of these last games.
Really?
They play Utah.
They're going to play Utah twice.
Yeah, they've got Utah twice. So if you look at the rankings right now, Georgia's in. 2, Bama. I think they're going to lose to Georgia. So they're iffy. But let's just say they're out in this scenario. So 2 and 3 and 4 are all out because Ohio State's 4. Cincinnati's at 5. 11 and 1 Michigan and 12 and 1 Michigan State would both jump Cincinnati. So that would put Michigan State at 2 and 3, which seems weird to think about. But if Bama loses, Oregon loses to Utah, which I think will happen, and then Ohio State in this scenario loses to Michigan, or loses to both Michigan and Michigan State, which is not happening. But in this scenario, if they lose out in the regular season, then Michigan and Michigan State would be 2 and 3.
But then what do they do with Notre Dame? Because Notre Dame would have only one loss to a team that's not in the playoff, which would, think it's a bad loss. If you lose to a team...
No, you put Michigan at 2, Michigan State at 3, and in the 4th spot, you can debate between undefeated Cincinnati and Notre Dame, which I think would be Cincinnati.
Because they have a tiebreaker, of course. It would be Georgia. Okay, if Ohio State loses these next 2 games, it will be Georgia, Michigan State, Michigan, Cincinnati. We good?
Michigan State would be above Michigan.
That's what I just said.
No, you said Michigan State.
No, Michigan State at 2.
Correct. You didn't say
okay,
that.
Well, then I'll double down on you. You just said Michigan above Michigan State. Let's move on.
No,
Michigan State versus Ohio State. This is a big one. I'm seeing all over the place that the bookmakers are really, really just forgetting about the season that Michigan State has been having.
As they should.
I agree. But a 19-point favorite Ohio State?
We said on the show last week that the 21 line was a lot, and they ended up winning by 28, and it easily could have been 35 or even the 40s. So it looks big. But
what line is this? Purdue?
Yeah, but that offense is freaking explosive.
All right, so let's break this down. Let's start with Ohio State's offense. Ohio State has the best offense in the nation, and it's not even close. There is no argument. What is that? Okay, sorry. I was shown a picture.
There was a picture of pumpkin pie
with a mustard on it?
Mustard on it.
Hey, I'd eat that. I'd eat anything with mustard on it.
Disgusting.
Shout out to the 2019 Big Ten tournament.
Continue.
So, Ohio State can break open a game or make it close within seconds. All right? One play is all it takes to break the game open, essentially. They got 5 NFL players on this team, not counting their offensive line or their quarterback. So they got, the presumptive nickname is Honolulu Blue CO2. Praying to God that one of these receivers that's going to the NFL ends up in Detroit. Chris Olave, he's fantastic. You got Gary Wilson. You got JSN, who's not NFL draft eligible, but he would go probably in the 2nd to 3rd round this year. Or maybe 1st, honestly. Trevion Henderson, who's not even close to being NFL eligible, but honestly, do you think he could still go on this year's draft, Drew? Like in the late rounds?
He's young. I don't think so.
You don't think so? Well, I do. I think he would honestly hang in the draft boards. And then, lastly, Jeremy Ruckert is a pretty good tight end. And honestly, he's up there in the Big Ten tight end rankings. I know Eric All has had a meteoric rise these past couple weeks. So Jeremy Ruckert is up there with Eric All as one of the best tight ends of the Big Ten. I don't know who else. Oh, Peyton Hendershot and then Brenton Strange are some other names that go up there. And then, much like Michigan, Ohio State also has a top 5 offensive line in the country. They have Thayer Munford, who's will be a late 1st, early to mid 2nd rounder this year. He's solid. And then let's get into a bit of the game predictions. I think Ohio State has their way with Michigan State's D. Michigan State's defense is awful. It's horrendous.
Specifically their pass defense.
Yeah. Is it the worst in the Power 5? Is that what I'm hearing?
It's pretty close.
It's in the hundreds. It's in the hundreds. And I just think that these receivers are just going to just baby these guys. So yeah, that's my first point. I'm backtracking here. Ohio State's defense is in a weird spot here because they got one of the better defensive coordinators in the country, a top 10 defensive coordinator in my opinion, Kerry Coombs. I think he's a solid defensive play caller. But it's pretty tricky because they only have one, in my opinion, they only have one NFL player on this defense. At least for this year's class. And then some names to look out for. Cody Simon, Zach Harrison, and then Haskell Garrett, the NFL prospect. So they got some relatively young corners that I think Jaden Reed can take care of. But they got to just spread it out with Kenneth Walker. If Kenneth Walker can get going, Michigan State will have a chance late in this game. Drew, you're nodding your head. You got anything to add about this Ohio State defense?
I just think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring, but it's going to be pretty close to the replica of what we saw last week. I think Ryan Day's got this Ohio State team rolling. Michigan State, Tucker's got them rolling as well. Congrats to Mel Tucker.
No, not congrats.
10-year, $95 million contract about to be signed. Will make him the second highest paid coach in college football behind Nick Saban. So good for him. I do love me some Mel Tucker. But yeah, he's got them going, but it's going into Columbus at noon.
If Kenneth Walker isn't on Michigan State's roster, I think he does not get that contract this year. But that's not our topic here. So let's transition to Michigan State's offense. And after seeing the performance against Michigan, performance against Nebraska, the performance against Purdue, Peyton Thorne is mid. There's not much difference between Peyton Thorne and Cade McNamara, who I also think is relatively mid, but higher up on the mid scale than Peyton Thorne. However, Michigan State has a chance to win this game by what's been going for them all season. If Kenneth Walker has a good game, Michigan State should be in this game entering the fourth quarter. I love the over in this game. As I said, Ohio State's defense pretty shaky. Michigan State's defense really, really shaky. I love the over, and I think Kenneth Walker has a relatively big day. At least a touchdown and 100 yards at minimum, with a couple of breakout plays. Drew, and what are your thoughts on Michigan State's offense?
I think they're fine. They can run the football, but they're pretty one-dimensional. Their pass game is not that strong, at least not what I've seen so far this year. They're not awful, but they're just not a fantastic passing team. Yeah, Kenneth Walker is very good, but I think Ohio State just tries to contain Kenneth Walker, kind of do what Purdue kind of did against the Spartans. I don't think they're going to be much of a threat to the Buckeyes.
See, here's where I disagree with you. I think Jaden Reed has the potential to be, a first rounder next year. I think that they match up well with Ohio State's secondary. And I think, I don't know the status on Jalen Naylor because I honestly don't care. I don't know how Trey Mosley's gonna play. I'm not really sure on State's passing offense, but I think Jaden Reed will have some bright spots against this Ohio State secondary, and then that's all I got for the offense. And then we don't need to get into Michigan State's defense because they will get babied by this Ohio State offense. So let's get into a bit of a wrap-up. I think Ohio State's offense will have their way against Michigan State's defense. I think Ohio State's defense versus Michigan State's offense will be much more of a toss-up. However, I do like the over. I think Michigan State's run game with Kenneth Walker will make it a game in the early second half, like entering the fourth quarter, but I think Ohio State runs with it away late. Drew, your thoughts?
I've said it, but I don't know. I don't really think Michigan State has much of a chance with this Buckeye team. They struggled a little early on this year, but man, they've improved a ton, and they may be the best team in the country at this moment.
Really? All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll get into our picks for Week 12.
And now we go to our picks for Week 12 of college football. This week we'll be picking the matchups with top 25 teams, and we'll be picking all the games that are taking place at historic baseball fields. So let's start off at the noon slate. The one and only game at a historic baseball field this weekend. The Purdue Boilermakers playing Northwestern at Wrigley Field in Wrigleyville, Illinois, in Chicago. Purdue's favored by 11. Over-under is 47.5. Last time they played a game at Wrigley Field, it was about 10 years ago. Northwestern played Illinois. And midway through the game, or right before the game started, they realized they had to only play on one side of the field because the dimensions were so off. I think they fixed that now. But, it should be an interesting game to watch just to see what weird stuff's happening. Both teams are going to be on the same sideline, which is going to be very weird.
Isn't that how it was for Boston College Notre Dame back in the day?
Yeah, so it's going to be very weird, but it'll be kind of fun to watch. There'll be some weird things going on. Some substitutions. Players got to run all the way diagonal across the field. But yeah, Ryan. Purdue Northwestern.
Oh, this game is just... I'd rather just choke on my own vomit than watch this game. Ugh, especially with this slate.
They schedule this game as at beautiful Wrigley Field, most likely for TV, right? You get better ratings, showing beautiful Wrigley Field,
yeah,
and then to show how bad this game is on the field of Northwestern, they have all of this, and they get put on the Big Ten Network alternate channel. So that's kind of where the state of Northwestern football
on the alt
right
channel.
now.
So that's tough. Okay, any special uniforms for this game?
Not for Purdue. Northwestern's technically the home team, so it's
I bet you
possible
Northwestern wears the gold, the gold Old English
maybe
fonted ones, the ones that were against State. Boy, who cares about this game? Purdue's a better team, but I think Northwestern keeps it close.
I think Northwestern, or who you got winning?
I think Purdue wins, but Northwestern keeps it close.
I think that Purdue should. All signs are pointing towards a Purdue win, which means Purdue's probably gonna lose in Purdue fashion. I think Purdue's lost 6 of their last 7 to Northwestern, I believe.
That's a tough season.
Awful stat, but yeah, I think Purdue's probably gonna get it done, even though not very confident. All right,
classic Big Ten West game.
To the ranked games. This one should be a fast pick. Cupcake Week Part 2 in the SEC.
Gotta love the SEC. It just means more.
4 and 5, Charleston Southern traveling to Athens to play number 1 Georgia, who has looked unbeatable. I think the line, ESPN doesn't even have it down, but I think it's in the 50s. But yeah, Ryan, 4 and 5.
50?
Yeah, it's somewhere around there.
I'm gonna make one of the ballsiest picks ever. I think Charleston Southern is it. Correct. If the spread is at 50, I think Charleston Southern covers. But Georgia wins this game by 45 points.
We thought the Alabama line was huge last week, and they started off losing. They were down early in that game, and they ended up with a 46-point lead at halftime or something.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you can't start off losing to New Mexico State, so that's why Bryce Young is not. I don't want to. Stay away from Bryce Young if you're a Heisman better.
Yeah, the game's so bad.
Sarcasm.
The number 1 team's playing, and it's not even available on television, so. That's tough. Yeah, the spread's about 54.5 for Georgia this week. I don't think they cover. I mean, they have a really good defense, but if Charleston Southern scores 0, Georgia's still going to need 8 touchdowns.
50 points.
8 touchdowns. So I don't...
Fat old 50 burger just to cover.
We'll see. It's possible. We saw Florida put up 70 points against Samford last week. We don't need to talk about that game. That was horrendous, but Georgia wins, obviously. Spread, probably Charleston Southern. All right. Sticking with noon, Clemson, 7-3, sneak. Everyone thinks they're bad, and they're bad in Clemson standards. 7-3 could be much worse. Hosting number 10 Wake Forest, and Clemson is in fact favored by 4.5 points, according to Vegas. Ryan, Wake Forest still undefeated in the ACC again,
which is dumb.
One loss, North Carolina. It's not an ACC game. Ryan, does Clemson win at home?
I think they do. Is Clemson out of contention for a championship game berth? Do you know?
ACC championship game berth?
Yes.
If they're not, they're pretty close. They've got 2 losses already.
And then Wake Forest, have they clinched yet?
No.
No? So I think Clemson plays spoiler, and I think they pick one off against Sam Hartman. Clemson's offense has lost all credibility, but Clemson's defense is still really good. I think James Skelski, he'll be a late first rounder. I think he deserves to be. He's been there for 6 years, and this year has really been dragging him down. But he deserves to be a first round draft pick. So I think Clemson beats Wake.
I think Wake wins. Clemson, their games have been all close, even the ones they win. I think if Clemson wins by a field goal, they still don't cover. So I think you have to take the spread for Wake Forest. All right. Big noon Saturday on Fox.
Oh, who cares about this game?
Yeah, Big Noon has had the best ratings all year. This game's going to stink. Iowa State at Oklahoma. Oklahoma technically still in the playoff race. They're only favored, though, by 3.5 points at home to 6-4 Iowa State. So not a lot of... Media is not giving a lot of credit to Oklahoma.
Right? I think this game gets really, really sticky for Oklahoma. I really think it does. But I think they'll win. But I think Iowa State has their number entering the fourth quarter. I really do. This is where the experience of Brock Purdy and Breece Hall comes to fruition. Matt Campbell hasn't beat Oklahoma yet. They're going to have that mentality just to play spoiler and give all the chips to Dave Aranda and Mullet Man. I think they keep it close, but I think Oklahoma wins it late. Yeah, Lincoln Riley to LSU?
No, no chance. Oklahoma's going to win that game, too, as well. All right, 2 quick SEC picks. Texas A&M at home against Prairie View A&M.
Gig 'em.
Yeah, and then Mississippi State hosting Tennessee State.
Yeah, State. I'll take State.
Yeah, okay, good choice.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Will Rogers, dark horse Heisman for next year.
Last nooner, Michigan State on the road in Columbus with Ohio State. College game day will be there.
We doing this one now?
Yeah,
all right.
We'll go by time.
So, as we stated earlier, Ohio State will win, but I think that this game is a game entering the third quarter. I think Kenneth Walker has at least a touchdown, over minimum 100 yards, and I think Ohio State's receiving corps has a pretty historic day all around. I think JSN, Olave, and Garrett Wilson will have a touchdown each, and not even thinking about Trevion Henderson. So I think Ohio State wins. I love the over, as I said earlier. And yeah, game of the century coming up next week. But only if Michigan wins. Only if Ohio State wins. If Ohio State wins, it's the end of the world. If Michigan wins, Ohio State is somehow bad.
Yeah. Ohio State's winning this game.
I need more analysis. I need more analysis. Why do you think Ohio State will win, Drew?
Ohio State's got a crazy passing game. Michigan State has an awful secondary. I watched the entire Ohio State game last week. They averaged like 10 yards a play to a Purdue defense, which isn't great, but they're probably not worse than Michigan State's defense.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the matchup, so...
See, that's a good take.
It's gonna get ugly. Well, I said this earlier.
That's a good take.
We brought this game up like 5 times. I brought it up first.
Yeah, let's throw this game in the trash.
All right. Iowa at number 17, still hoping for a Big Ten West championship. As long as Wisconsin loses a game and they win out, I think they got a chance. They host Illinois without Bert Bielema this week.
Bert! Does Bert have COVID?
Bert does have COVID.
Oh, no.
So, good friend of the pod. Just kidding. I wish. Brett Bielema.
Bert, if you want to come on, you're always open.
Yes. He is out this week with COVID, though. I think he's fine. I think he just had some mild symptoms. But with that, he's out this week.
Prayers to Bert.
So, 2 o'clock game. Weird time slot in Kinnick.
At Kinnick, Iowa.
Yeah. Good choice. All right. Moving on.
Although Illinois could play spoiler and end Iowa's season, but
Illinois is also 4-6. They end the season with Northwestern, which most likely is a win. So a win here could get Illinois
to 500
to a bowl game, as long as they beat Northwestern.
Bowl eligible Bert.
So we'll see if
I want Illinois to win, but Iowa wins at Kinnick.
Tough game for Brett to not coach in, but
I like the under. I like the under too. Next game.
The over/under is 38.5. It's very low.
Oh,
okay.
I'll take the over.
Anyway, 2:30 NBC. Georgia Tech 3-7. Rough year. Georgia Tech got a rough end of the schedule. They've got Notre Dame this week.
And Georgia next week.
But yeah, like I just said, they play at Notre Dame. Notre Dame 9-1 with their lone loss, a home loss to Cincinnati. They're ranked number 8 in the country, and they're kind of one of those teams that's sneaking up in the rankings, trying to maybe catch some teams sleeping at the wheel, losing one of these games, and maybe they could creep into the playoff. Notre Dame favored by 17 at home. Last home game for Notre Dame before they head out west to end the season. So
against who?
Stanford.
Got it.
So what's happening here, Ryan?
You know, if this game was played earlier in the season, like from week 1 to 4, I think Notre Dame stumbles heavily in this game. But I don't think Tech's having a good year, and I think while they're not a playoff team, I think Notre Dame has an identity, and I think that they win this game by a lot.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's go to the 3:30 window. Let's start with Arkansas, 500 in SEC play at 3-3, 7-3 throughout the whole season. They've had their ups and downs. They're ranked 21 in the country. They travel to Tuscaloosa to play Bama. Bama favored by 20.5. That's a greater line than Ohio State has this week.
Tusk in Tuscaloosa. For those who don't know, Arkansas's live mascot is named Tusk 5.
Yeah.
He's a big name in the Canfield household.
So does
And
Tusk have a chance this week?
Tusk does not have a chance in Tuscaloosa, though, but that's a great play on words.
Yeah, I think if Bama's going to lose, could be next week in the Iron Bowl. I mean, that's always a good rivalry. Or probably against Georgia. But I do not believe this is the week Bama's going to fall. All right. Another interesting 3:30 game. Cincinnati, the home team. They're ranked number 5. 2 regular season wins and an American championship away from a possible playoff berth. They host SMU. They are not ranked. This was expected to be a ranked matchup for Cincinnati, but nevertheless, 8-2 is their record for SMU, the Ponies. This game is in Nippert Stadium in Cincinnati. Cincinnati is favored by 11.5. Big statement game, I think, for Cincinnati here, Ryan, before they play.
If
some games in the following weeks. What's happening here?
If I go to edit this video and I'm not super lazy, I'll insert the Bryson DeChambeau clip. I think the theme continues for Cincinnati. I think finally against a good team. They have a good excuse to keep this game close. I think this game is really, really close entering the fourth quarter. But Tanner Mordecai is a quarterback for SMU, correct?
Correct.
And then, I'm a Desmond Ridder guy. I think a dramatic touchdown in the end will cement Cincinnati's reason that they belong in the playoff. You're shaking your head.
Well, if you're saying that they need a last-second drive to score and cement
against a good team, though.
No.
I'm not saying that they're a lock if they win this game. I'm saying that if they will give the committee,
No, if winning a close game here does the opposite of cementing a chance to the playoff.
But it's a good team, though.
No.
SMU's a good team.
In Cincinnati standards, but they're not even ranked. If you think you deserve the playoff, if you're on Cincinnati, you gotta win. You gotta at least cover.
No, but I'm saying this will be a big win. This is a big win for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Regardless of the score, it's a big win.
Every game is, yeah.
And then going into the American Championship game against Houston, who is now ranked, this is statement time for Cincinnati. I think they win. I think it's close. Next game.
Michigan
next.
All right, and Ryan Canfield picks Michigan to beat Maryland in College Park. I think that game.
Shocker!
I think it's gonna be really close. Maryland played honestly pretty good football until they got to the red zones last week. A lot of fumbles, but they didn't move the ball pretty well. If they can just find that end zone, they had plenty of chances last week against Michigan State.
True.
I think at home, you got better weather than it is in Michigan. You don't have the opposing fans. I think Maryland's going to cover that 15. I think they've got a shot at Michigan. Michigan's going to be looking ahead to the game next Saturday. I think Maryland's got a shot, but I think Michigan's going to end up pulling it out at the end. All right.
I'm not gonna leave this game with a super cocky impression. I think Maryland does cover. Actually, you know what? No, they don't. But I think that they keep Michigan in it for a half. I think Michigan breaks away, and then Michigan covers, and then they win. So.
All right. ABC 3:30. Wisconsin, ranked number 15. They're on track to win the Big Ten West. They need a win out to cement that. If they have one loss, there's a good chance they're going to make it anyway. But they want to win it or try to control their own destiny with a win against Nebraska. 1-6 in the Big Ten. Nebraska's played every game close. They're a lot better at home, but Camp Randall, there's always a chance. You've also got Scott Frost firing like half his staff, I think they laid off almost everyone.
I didn't know that happened.
Yeah, because they said Scott Frost, they kept him for next year, but he also took that and fired basically everyone.
Interesting.
But that could help. That could bring some energy to the team. It could do the complete opposite. Are the Badgers gonna jump around after this one, Ryan?
Yes. I think, if Nebraska is losing some of their staff, that could either be a huge blow or that could be motivation. I think it's a blow this week, and I think Wisconsin handles Nebraska in the second half.
Yeah, Wisconsin needs to win this one. I think they've got it in the bag. All right, some quick picks right now. Virginia at Pittsburgh.
Pitt.
Still the 3:30 window.
Love Pitt. Kenny Two Gloves, baby.
UAB playing number 22 UTSA. This game, UTSA is only favored by 4.5. UAB only has one loss in their conference this year, so it's not a bad University of Texas San Antonio game.
Roadrunners.
Yeah, Roadrunners. They're gonna win. And then BYU at Georgia Southern at 4:00. Number 14 BYU. Georgia Southern 3-7. Favored to lose that game by 20.
I think Georgia Southern covers, but I think BYU wins.
And still got some quick picks. Not great games. Syracuse football is not kind of disgusting. Plays at number 20 NC State this weekend. NC State 7-3 on the year. Favored by 11 at home.
NC State. Basketball, though. Syracuse basketball. ACC dark horse.
All right, this is an interesting one, or at least according to Vegas, it'll be an interesting one. You've got 8-2, number 11 in the country, Baylor, going to Manhattan, Kansas.
The Little Apple.
To play Kansas State, who you really haven't heard that much about this year. They've kind of been under the radar. But they're kind of secretly 7-3, playing decent football. And they are, in fact, favored against Baylor, who just knocked off Oklahoma last week. This game's at 5:30 on FS1. Ryan, who's going to win this one?
I like Baylor. I like Deuce Vaughn for Kansas State. But, I mean, who cares about this game, honestly?
Agreed. But
I'm not taking this pick to my grave if I get it wrong, but I think Baylor wins.
Fair. All right, and then we got a pretty nice evening window. Let's start with probably the worst game of the bunch, though. 7:30 p.m. Ole Miss playing Vanderbilt.
Hotty toddy.
Ole Miss favored by 36.5. Vandy.
What? You think Vandy's going to win?
No, I was going to say Vandy's not. There's something else. All right, and then you got two solid games that are around the same time. 7:30 on ABC. Oregon on the road at Utah. It's number 3 at number 23. We said that we both kind of agreed that Oregon was going to drop one of their games against Utah, whether it was this Saturday or the Pac-12 championship on that Friday night. Utah is favored at home, which is a little surprising. Not that much respect to Oregon. But Utah's been hot as of late. Ryan, how's this game going to be looking at late at night?
You know, this is at 7:30?
Yep.
Okay. This is a reasonable time to watch this a fairly good game. But, this is tricky. Because I love Oregon. Oregon has the best fight song in the nation. But if I really want Michigan to succeed, I would take Oregon to lose. But I just think, depending on the uniform matchup, I think that's what sets Oregon apart. If their uniforms aren't looking too great, which you can find out my take on the uniforms on Twitter at RPC vs. the World, then you'll know who wins this game. I don't have a pick yet. It's either or right now. So if they got some bussin' uniforms, then I'll take Oregon. But if they got like a white jersey with the yellow helmet and green pants, Utah by 1,000,000.
All right, and then
what do you think?
I think everyone's just against the number 3 team in the country this week. Like even Vegas picking Utah. I don't know. I think Oregon's gonna have a chip on their back. I think they'll win this week. I do think they'll probably lose the Pac-12 championship if that's the case.
Really?
But I do think Oregon probably wins.
See, if Oregon were to pick and choose the game to lose, I think it's this one. I think they win the Pac-12 championship. But if they're going to lose, which I don't know they will yet, they're going to lose. They're a lock to win the Pac-12. Honestly, they're a lock to win the Pac-12. It's just this game that I think is up in the air.
I think Oregon has a chance to lose a Civil War next week against Oregon State.
We can't call it that anymore.
No, it's a Civil War.
No, it got canceled.
No, it's still called the Civil War.
No.
Are you sure?
I'm 1,000% sure. It's not called the Civil War anymore.
Gotta look this up real quick. Oh, yeah. So, June 20th, 2020. They're no longer calling it the Civil War. So, apologies. Twitter still calls it the Civil War, but
There's no way that Oregon loses to Civil. I mean,
Was it the best?
they lose to Oregon State at home. There's no way.
It's the best Oregon State team in a while.
Really? I haven't really been paying attention.
Like, not great.
Oregon State football. Okay, keep going.
All right, and then the last matchup involving a ranked team. Semi-interesting matchup. Number 9 Oklahoma State. This may be the best team in the Big 12, and if you look at their schedule, let's talk about who they're playing this week. They play Texas Tech, who won on a 64-yard field goal last week against Iowa State. So they're going to be on a high. But Oklahoma State, number 9, they've lost one game, and that was Texas, right?
Oklahoma State lost to Iowa State.
Correct, yeah. So they lost Iowa State.
A horrible call, by the way.
Oklahoma State did beat Texas, yes.
Oklahoma State should be undefeated.
So Oklahoma State is close to being undefeated. If they win this week, they'll have Bedlam at home against Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship against Oklahoma or Baylor. So if Oklahoma State can win out, they've got a chance at the playoffs.
They'll be looking at the Sugar Bowl. They'll be going to the Sugar Bowl.
Well, if Oregon they can get Oregon to lose. If Georgia can win out, so Bama falls. If you have Ohio State just winning out, which takes Michigan and Michigan State out of the race.
If you have a 2-loss Ohio State and a 3-loss Michigan State, maybe you can get a Big 12 champion in there.
No, what are you talking about? Ohio State wins out.
If there was a 1-loss Big 10 champion or an undefeated Ohio State.
Wait. Ohio State wins out, so Michigan and Michigan State are both disqualified. So Ohio State's in there. Georgia's in there. Assuming Georgia beats Bama, Bama falls. If Oregon falls, then you have 2 extra spots. You could put Cincinnati up there. You could put Notre Dame, who, again, this could hurt them, not a conference champion. And they don't really have, I don't know, what's their best win this year? They don't really have any big wins. They don't have one. Yeah, they really don't have any big wins.
North Carolina?
Yeah, And then
I think the Big 10 champion, depending on how the dominoes fall, I think a Big 10 champion and an SEC champion, and then Cincinnati, and maybe a Big 12 champion.
Thanks for letting me finish the thought, Ryan.
I'm sorry. Keep going.
But, you get 2 slots for Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, Notre Dame. Oklahoma State, if they win against some top teams in Baylor and Oklahoma and they're a champion, it'd be kind of tough to keep them out, and that's if things got to fall their way, but I do think they have a chance. Anyway, they got to beat Texas Tech first. They're on the road. They're favored by 10 points in Lubbock. Beautiful night in Lubbock, 78 degrees. This game takes place on Fox. Ryan? Who you got?
I think the Mullets win this game. That's all I got to say.
Do you want to inform the audience who the Mullets are?
Mike Gundy? Mullet guy? Or did he cut the mullet?
He does not have a mullet anymore.
Well, he was the mullet guy, and I guess he's not anymore. All right. We ready to transition into the Hot Grind of the Week?
Let's go for it.
All right. So this week's Hot Grind of the Week is always presented by Milner Hoffman Tools. Go to milnertools.com. Use code Ryan20 at checkout. Get 20% off your order. My Hot Grind of the Week. Actually, Drew, what's your Hot Grind of the Week?
I don't know. It's not really a hot take or hot grind. I don't know. It's kind of annoying. College basketball is back, and there's some great matchups. And we watched last week that awesome Villanova UCLA game, and then Gonzaga Texas. Wasn't a great game, but both those games had amazing environments. And now we're turning the table, and you've got some great games this weekend. You've got Purdue possibly playing Villanova. You've got number 1 Gonzaga playing number 2 UCLA. And all these games will be taking place at neutral sites, which aren't even, I think Purdue is going to be playing in Connecticut, and Gonzaga, UCLA, in Las Vegas. I don't know. It doesn't make much sense. They're not going to get as many excited fans. It's awful for the students.
A lot going on in Vegas this week, huh?
Sure thing. But, yeah, I don't know. I think they got to quit with these neutral site games or just stop doing so many of them. It really dampers the game. The students are some of the best parts of the game. We realized that last year without the students really attending games. So I think it's better for everyone if we start playing. And this is what, what's his face? Seton Hall's coach said last night.
Don't know his name.
Yeah, he's a great...
Not Chris
Willard.
Mack.
Willard. Like that environment at Michigan, he said was great for the guys. He's happy to see all the Michigan students. He said he missed that. He said
Whatever.
He said they got to go on the road more instead of playing these stupid neutral site games. So props to him. I think we got to quit these neutral site games.
I agree.
Unless there's a few decent ones, but for the most part, you get one. You should get one tournament, early season tournament, and neutral site, and that's it.
I totally agree. My hot grind of the week. I think Michigan is in trouble. A huge loss to Seton Hall at home, nonetheless, and then now if they hopefully beat UNLV in the Roman main event, then they'll have to play a challenging Pac-12 team like Arizona. I'm not sure anything of Arizona. I don't know who's on their team. I don't know who their coach is. But you gotta be a Power 5 team, and it's only gonna get harder. In a couple weeks, you go on the road to play North Carolina. You got the Big Ten, which is always tricky, and I'm just not sold on Devontae Jones yet. He might not be built for the Big Ten, as we clearly saw last year. Mike Smith was. I think we take the solid point guard card for granted, like Xavier Simpson, who, I mean, had 4 great years, and then, I mean, you need great point guard play, as what we saw from Michigan State last year. They had no certified number 1 point guard on their depth chart. So I just think that Michigan's in a tough spot right now, and I think that it could get a lot worse, but, I mean, it's November. This is only November, and as we all know, we sleep in May. So you don't want to lose in March. So I'm happy that Michigan is losing in November and not in March. Anything else from you, Drew?
I think that's it for next. Whoa.
Whoa.
I think that's it for this week, Ryan.
All right. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to follow the show on Instagram for next week's Hot Grind, I know we didn't have a write-in for the Hot Grind of the week this week, but we will have one next week. So you can follow the show at The Ryan Canfield Show on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter at RPC vs. the World. You can follow Drew on Twitter at LawlerDrew. That'll do it for this week. Drew, you want to sign us off?
Peace out, players.
See ya. Go Blue.